Here's our game plan. We're going to get these notes done for 4.6. Then we're going to go over our quizzes. And then if we have time, we will look at some homework and we'll do some homework together. But first, let's get our notes done. We only have 4 more problems to do. So let's recap. What we were talking about before you went to lunch, which I hope was great.
It was fantastic. Every time I have Precal lunch, it's
Like
a
the
great
best day ever.
Great day.
Okay, so again, it's a 3-part question. Is it a sinusoid? Why or why not? And then what's the period? So first thing you do is look at each part of the problem and find the period of each piece. So what's the period of this piece? Pi. And how did you get pi, Kamara? Exactly. The standard period is 2 pi, but we have divided by 2. What about this one? Standard period is 2 pi, but we have divided by 5. Now these 2 numbers do not match, right?
Correct.
So they're not, this is not a sinusoid. If you were to graph this on your calculator, it would have periodic behavior, but it would not look like a sine graph. Okay? So it has periodic behavior. We need to find the period of the problem. So we think about this one. Every pi, it starts over. So I like to write these out. You don't have to do this. This is not like the way to do the problem. I just like to think about every pi, it starts over. This one starts over every 2 pi over 5. So 2/5, 4/5, 6/5, 8/5. Uh-oh, here it is. What's 10/5?
2 pi.
2 pi, and there's an overlap, right? That's the first one that they both have in common.
Yeah.
So that is the period of the problem. All right, so not sinusoidal, periods don't match, but the period, it is periodic. The period of the whole problem is 2 pi. All right, how about this one? What's the period? Remember, we don't care about these numbers out in front. All we care about is the period. And the period of this one is 2 pi over 2, or pi. This one is 2 pi over 3. So when's the first time that they both start over fresh?
2 pi, and then 6 pi over 3.
I think this one's also 2 pi, isn't it?
Yeah.
And we're not really horribly shocked by that because the period of the sine and the cosine is 2 pi. So it makes sense kind of that is not always going to be the answer, but I'm not surprised that it commonly is. All right, 2 more. 2 more and we will be done with this section. All right, what's the period of this one? Be careful. It would just be 1, wouldn't it? Because it's 2 pi divided by 2 pi. So the period of this one is 1. What about the period of this one?
1.
1. And since the periods match,
Sinusoidal.
It's sinusoidal, which means if you were to type this in on your calculator, you would get a sine shape. And the period of that sinusoidal function is 1. When they match, the period of the sum is the period.
I like that word, this word.
What word is that?
Sinusoidal.
Well, I'm so glad. I'm glad something brightens your day today, other than a great lunch. Now, I don't know if you remember this from graphing. If you were going to graph this, you would have to factor this 2 out, right?
Yeah.
But we're not graphing it. That 2, though, is what's going to influence the period.
Yeah.
Whether you factor it out or not, that's going to influence the period. So the period of this guy is 2 pi over 2, or pi. If you want to factor it out, if you just feel better doing that, go ahead, but you certainly don't have to, unless you're graphing it. What's the period here? I think we already did this one.
Yeah, it's the same.
So we got pi, 2 pi, 3 pi, and 2/3, 4/3, 6/3. Is this period 2 pi?
Yes.
Are you feeling okay about that very short little simple section? Van?
So on letter E, like they're both 1, but if you gave us one where they were different numbers, like how would we figure out the period?
The period you mean?
Yeah.
Same way we did here. So if one was 1 and one was 2, then this one repeats every 1, and this one repeats every 2. So the first time they have in common would be 2. So it's the same thing, just no pi's. 8.
Why is the problem on the left 1 and the one on the right pi? Period.
The period
'Cause you divided
of the sign is 2 pi. Then you divide it by whatever the coefficient is.
I didn't see that.
All right. So now I want to take a moment and look at your quizzes that I returned. Okay? Did you miss something that you don't understand why you missed it? Okay?
number 1 on the 2 hard quiz.
2 heart quiz, number 1. Find the, yeah, we all need to look at this, or a bunch of us need to look at this. We're finding, this is no calculator, so we're finding the exact cosine of 214 pi over 3. Now, if you had a different quiz, you had a different number there, but the process is exactly the same. What's all the way around? 2 pi. So all the way around is 6/3. What's that? That's a lot of times around, right?
71.
So I'm going to think of what that number is in a mixed number form. So 214 divided by 3. Did you get 71 and a third?
Yes.
So another way of thinking about this number is 71 and 1/3 pi. Now, what some of you did is say, okay, I'm going to ditch that 71 pi. You can't. What can you ditch? Revolutions. And what's a revolution? 2 pi. So you can only get rid of the even pies. You can't get rid of an odd pi, because an odd pi is halfway around. Do you understand what I'm saying?
Yeah.
So this, you can get rid of 70 of these and make this 4 pi over 3, 1 1/3, or 4/3 pi.
Yeah.
And then you can change that. We're finding the cosine of that. You can change that into degrees. What is that, 240? And then you can draw your 240-degree angle. This is 180, this is 240, so this is 60. Jake, are you following here?
Yeah, I got you. It's
All right,
120.
so cosine would be -1/2. Now, you might say to me, but I have that down. Well, you know what? If you didn't have it in the right quadrant, I'm not giving you credit for it, full credit for it, because our answers are always 1/2 or √3/2 or √2/2. I mean, you need to be able to do the problem. And that means get it into the right quadrant, which is quadrant 3. You guys that had the other quiz, you had 119 pi over 4. So we could do the same thing. Oh, no, not 6. No. Yeah. So you had 29 3/4. How much of that can you get rid of? 28. So you have to keep the leftover 1 3/4. That's a great question. Thank you for asking it. Everybody got that now? Okay. Gotta be careful about that. You can definitely eliminate part of your angle, but only the 2 pi parts. Or if we were in degrees, only the 360 parts. Right? Beatrice?
So then which quadrant would the 1 and 3 fingers go in?
4th, because that's 315. 7 pi over 4 is 315. So that's going to be down in the 4th quadrant. It's going to be a 45-degree reference angle. All right, anything else on the quiz that you missed and you're not sure about? Kamara,
The number 8.
which quiz do you have?
2 hard.
2 heart, number 8. Everybody had a problem like this, so pay attention, even if you didn't have this particular quiz. All right, so here was the deal. This is what they were given on this quiz. They were told that angle A was 57, C is 90, and B, side B, is 12. So this is what they were given. We talked about this. I totally know we did. Angles are capital letters, sides are lowercase. So this is side B, this is side A, this is side C. And my job is to find that and that and that. That's called solving the triangle, finding what we don't know. Now, I think the angle is easy, although someone managed to miss this. No, the angle is so easy. What do we know about the angles of a triangle?
180.
They add up to 180. So you got a 90 and a 57. These two have to add up to 90. So what is that, 33?
Yeah.
All right. Abe, are you sharing with Van what you were talking about earlier?
A little bit.
Okay. In his sleeve, hand spot, left hand or right hand, some hand behind his back.
What? Oh.
Okay, now, I need to find one of the sides, and it doesn't matter, kids, it makes 0 difference which one you find first. If you decide that you wanna find side A first, then one possible equation would be tan 57 equals A over 12. Now, that is not the only one by any means, but would you agree that the tangent of 57 is opposite over adjacent?
Yes.
So you'll get 12 tan 57. Type it in on your calculator. Now, your calculator needs to be set in degrees. It may be in radians. Right now, I'm not sure. But you need to set it in degrees. And now I'll give you side A. Then you can say something like cosine 57 equals 12 over C. Cosine is adjacent over hypotenuse. So C cosine 57 equals 12, and 12 divided by cosine 57. Now again, these are not the only equations, but they are examples of equations that you would need to solve this problem. right, Kamar? All right, anybody else on that quiz? Jake?
7 on the 2 mark quiz.
2 heart, 7. Is this 2 heart? Yeah. All right. We know sine is 5/13. And we know we're in quadrant 2. So we're gonna find the cosine and the cotangent. I hope you drew a picture because a triangle is so helpful. So here we are in quadrant 2 with our triangle. We know that opposite is 5 and hypotenuse is 13.
I just saw that. I figured.
So what do we need to do? Pythagorean theorem. So call this x. 5 squared plus x squared equals 13 squared. So 25 plus x squared is 169. X squared is 144. So what's x? 12. And actually it would have to be negative because of the quadrant that it's in. So cosine, here's your angle. Cosine is adjacent over hypotenuse, so negative 12/13. And cotangent is negative 12/13. Anybody else have a question about that quiz?
Go over number 9.
2 heart, number 9. We want the bird's angle of depression to a worm on the ground. He's in a tree, so here's the bird in the tree, here's the worm on the ground. The tree is 29 feet tall. The worm is 100 feet from the base of the tree. And we want to find the angle of depression. Remember, angle of depression, angle of elevation are the same. We always mark it here because that's in the triangle. That is never in the triangle. This is never x. Never. That's x. So what function do I have here? So tan x equals 29 over 100. Guys, if you're looking for an angle, the only way to find it is to use your second tangent button. That is the only way to find an angle. You use this button for one purpose only, to find an angle. Never use this button unless you're trying to find an angle. Okay? All right, you good on those quizzes? Anything else? You have time to answer any question you have about any quiz. All right, let's take a quick look at our homework then. Get out your homework. This is yours. Two. Three. Get out your homework.
Talking about like 4.5.
Yeah. Just get a head start on it. And number B, or letter B, good thing I looked at this. Letter B, I want you to change that to a cosine. I'm not gonna have you graph these weird sequence. So change number 1B, this is homework 4-5. Number 1B, we're gonna change it to a cosine.
You want to change to that to CK2.
No,
Keep that one.
you need to solve equations with those. You just don't need to graph them. All right, so part 1, we have time to do one problem. Number one, do you wanna sketch a tangent, or do you wanna sketch a cosine?
Tangent.
All right, so we're gonna do problem one, here we go. Now, the good news is, the 2 is already factored out. Remember, if it's not, you have to, but it's already out. You might also want to remember that your standard tangent looks like this. That's just a good thing to have in your mind. This one is going to have exactly the same shape. It's positive, so it's going to be moving in the same direction. The difference is the origin has been shifted. Your phase shift is your new origin. So for the tangent, the origin is the origin. So we're gonna move that over to pi over 6. So that, that now is my dot. So there's an asymptote over here, and an asymptote over here. There's supposed to be evenly spaced apart. A better job there. And here's my curve. Remember that 3 does indeed alter the curvature, but for our pictures it doesn't matter. So I'm kind of just ignoring that 3. But I need to label my asymptotes. Now, the normal period of a tangent is pi. This one has been divided by 2, which means that from finger to finger is pi over 2. That point is right in the middle. So how far forward and backward will I have to go if the whole thing is pi over 2? A quarter pi. So I'm going to take pi over 6, and I'm going to add a fourth, and then take pi over 6 and subtract a fourth. So I'm going to need a common denominator, so I'll use 12. So 2 twelfths plus 3 twelfths is 5 twelfths. And then 2 twelfths minus 3 twelfths is negative 1 twelfth. And to double check myself, how far is it from negative 1 to positive 5? 6 twelfths, which is 1/2, which is exactly what I needed it to be, right? Done. What's the period? Pi over 2. What's your frequency? 2 over pi. What's your amplitude? None, 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 none. Tangents have no amplitude. Nothing has amplitude except sines and cosines. No amplitude. What's our phase shift? Positive pi over 6. And this one has 0 vertical shift because we didn't add anything to the end. Okay? So there you go. That one's already done for you. Yay, rock.